It's official, the nearly $2 trillion stimulus package has passed in the House of Representatives. Let's get into it and discuss all the details and what this means going forward. But really quickly before we do, thank you so much for joining me. If you're new here or if you haven't done so yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button right down below the video so you can stay tuned with everything going on, as I'm here for you each and every day with all of those latest updates, and I want to make sure that you're getting all of the money and benefits you're possibly eligible to receive as a result of these multi-trillion-dollar stimulus packages. So again, thank you so much for joining me. Subscribe down below, and let's get into this right away, as once again, we have a lot of information to cover in this video. All right, so if you happen to catch my video from just a few hours ago, in that video, I said, hey, they are voting in the House of Representatives right now as I record this video. Well, to be totally honest with you, I finished recording that video at 10:07 a.m. Eastern Time. When I got done recording, I looked at my devices, and sure enough, I had about 12 notifications saying it has just passed through the House of Representatives. I was going to scrap that video and start all over and record a new one and say, hey, it just passed right here, right now. However, I decided to still put that one up because it still had a lot of really good information in it. And I wanted to wait for a little while because a lot of times after they pass things like this, either in the Senate or the House or anything like that the president does, usually people like Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and other lawmakers usually come out and have a press conference, a press briefing, or they do something where they sit around and they talk to reporters. So I wanted to wait around for a little bit and see, what do they have to say about this? And sure enough, shortly thereafter, Nancy Pelosi was out speaking on the passage of the bill. So I wanted to bring you all that information in this video, even though the video that I released earlier today still had a lot of really good information on it in regards to the CBO tallies, the nationwide lockdown that I was talking about, as well as some information out of the FDA and other things on the stimulus package. So if you haven't seen that video, you might want to check it out as well. All right, but anyway, let's keep going here and talk about what actually happened today already. So bright and early this morning, starting at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, the House of Representatives was in session voting on this massive, well, it ended up being a $1.7 trillion reconciliation bill. Remember, there were price tags all over the place? Well, it ended up being, according to the reports that I'm finding now, $1.7 trillion that's what they're calling it right now. This is the stimulus package. So they held the vote in the House this morning, as they said late last night, or technically early this morning, and it officially has passed through the House of Representatives. Now, let me give you some more information here. So, it did pass with a vote of 220 over 213. There was actually one Democrat who actually voted against it. Other than that, all Democrats voted for it in favor of the bill, with the exception of the one Democrat, and all Republicans voted against it, which we already knew was going to happen. So, this kind of comes in perfectly as we were kind of anticipating. However, there was that small group of moderates who were kind of up in the air as far as questionable votes being, will they vote for it or will they not? But they said as soon as they got the CBO score that they'd be just fine and vote for it. All right, one quick note on the CBO score. In my last video earlier today, I brought you that information. However, the CBO said that this bill would actually add to the deficit by $367 billion. That was not taking into account the IRS crackdown, let me call it, I guess we should call it. So apparently they're going to be hiring a lot more IRS agents to conduct more audits. And as a result of that, they're anticipating they're going to generate another $207 billion from basically IRS enforcement. Therefore, basically taking that deficit from 367 down by $207 billion. Now I'm messing up all my numbers, sorry. So they're taking it down by $207 billion down to $160 billion. So that's still the deficit that it'll bring in, another 160, but either way, that's pretty small when you're talking about a $1.7 trillion package, right? Less than 10%. So anyway, that's what we're seeing now as far as the CBO scoring and stuff like that. However, now it goes on to the Senate. However, some people are saying it could be a little while before this thing actually gets passed through the Senate for a number of different reasons. Number one is they're going to be talking with the Senate parliamentarian. Now that it has passed through the House, we can see the actual framework of everything that is in this bill, and the Senate parliamentarian may be coming out saying, There's actually a number of different provisions within this bill that cannot be in there according to parliamentarian rules. So therefore, we'll probably see some of the provisions in this package, possibly even some of the most important provisions actually taken out of the package as a result of the Senate parliamentarian. As a result of everything else, we have people like Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin who are also still somewhat opposed to the bill and some of the provisions within it. Therefore, it'll probably go with under some kind of maybe amendment phase where they're actually going to be taking out some of the provisions in here or adjusting them in some way. So this is likely going to take some time to renegotiate some of this and ultimately get these two Democratic senators on board with this package. Now remember, we only need Democratic support with this package. Because it's a reconciliation bill, that means we don't need Republicans to support it. If they do, it would make it easier, but they've already told us that they're not going to vote for it. So we can already anticipate Republicans will not vote in favor of this, and it'll strictly be Democrats, which is what we've always anticipated. Now, something else that's interesting. President Biden actually originally introduced this bill way back in April of this year. I didn't realize it was that long ago, but yeah, according to the reports and everything that I was finding on this, he introduced this bill, this Build Back Better plan, which is what we're talking about right here, this stimulus package, the reconciliation bill, way back in April of this year. So we're talking like, what is that, 7 months ago that we've been talking about this thing already, and finally we're just down to it, and it could actually be a little bit longer even until they actually get this thing passed. However, Chuck Schumer has indicated he wants to have this thing fully passed by Christmas. So we're talking, what are we talking about? Maybe a month, a little over a month from right now? So they've got a lot on their plate to get this whole thing done. And that is on or before, well, not on or before Christmas, but sometime now, between now and Christmas, Chuck Schumer indicated he wants to have this thing fully passed in the Senate. However, if they pass it through the Senate, which again, is a huge question mark, according to everything that I'm looking at right now, basically everybody out there is saying it's a huge question mark if this will even get passage in the Senate, just because of there's such slim margins. Literally, there's no margin at all, right? They have to have every single vote from Democrats, assuming that no Republicans vote for it, and therefore that would allow the passage. But we still have a couple of moderates in the Senate saying, yeah, we'll see about that, right? So either way, even if this does pass through the Senate, it would likely still need to go back to the House of Representatives to be passed once again. Remember this whole process? So the House sent it over in the form that it's currently in right now. However, if there are any amendments to the bill, as in if the bill is passed in any other form than what it's in right here, right now, it would need to go back to the House and actually be passed once again in its new form that it's been passed through in the Senate. So we could have a little bit of back and forth here for a little bit of time here. However, considering we've been talking about it for 7 months now, and we're only about a couple of weeks away from potentially the full passage, I mean, it could come at any time between now and Christmas. That's just kind of the line in the sand that Chuck Schumer has drawn, saying it needs to be done by then. So it could come anytime between now and then. But considering we've been talking about it for 7 months now, really, what is another 4 or 5 weeks or so at most, right? Well, it's going to take a while, but it's not going to be like the worst thing in the world. So that's kind of where we're sitting right now, but the package is done. And as far as Democrats in the House, they're celebrating, right? They're super excited. They're very glad about this. They're very proud. They're all out, puffing their feathers, I guess you could say. You know what I mean? Like the birds, you see birds that roll around in the dust and then they puff their feathers. Kind of funny. Anyway, so that's kind of what they're doing right now. They're all proud and they're excited and they're all jacked up that this whole thing is done and it's passed through the House after so much time of basically saying, we don't know if we have the votes. Nancy Pelosi scrapping the votes on this thing literally for 2 months. This was supposed to pass way back in late September. She scrapped it then. She scrapped it a couple times in October. She scrapped it again. I mean, literally time and time again. It was almost like many of us were thinking, is this even going to come to the floor for a vote anymore? But done. So it's in the House. It's out of the House now. It's onto the Senate now. So when it comes to the House of Representatives, the stimulus packages are pretty much done in the House as of right now, unless it picks up some amendments out of the Senate, which we just talked about. However, one more thing that we need to focus on here too. A couple weeks ago, the president indicated there is another stimulus package coming after this one. Yes, I know. The saga, the drama continues. Dun dun dun, right? So yeah, the president has indicated that another stimulus package will be coming after this one, likely in early 2022. So maybe, just maybe, they will start working on that next stimulus package that they want to push through in early 2022. Maybe the House will start working on that because at this point, the House doesn't have much going on, right? They kind of got a bunch of free time on their hands, and maybe they could put it to use by working on another stimulus package. But either way, we'll have to watch this very closely because the Senate is usually, I've said this many times before, but I'm going to say it again really quickly. Usually the Senate is where some of the best provisions of the stimulus package are picked up at the very last minute. Now I know in some of my videos recently I've talked about stimulus checks and how they're not technically added into the package yet. Yeah, they're not in there yet, but guess what? Usually the very last few days, the last couple of weeks, the last couple hours in some instances is when the best provisions are picked up, and it's usually in the Senate. So let's just remember that as well, right? So it's usually the Senate where these amendments come out of because that's just typically what happens. It's such slim margins in there in the Senate right now that they have to offer concessions, otherwise they don't get the votes. Therefore, they almost have to bend into and get whatever these lawmakers call on, otherwise they won't get the votes and then they don't get the package at all, if that makes sense. So we could be seeing some good stuff here coming out of the Senate very, very soon. So anyway, it's a done deal. Passed in the House. It's done. As far as the reconciliation bill, now it's on to the Senate. It is not fully passed, just to make it very clear so that there's no miscommunication or misunderstanding. It's not fully, completely passed, but it is done in the House, and now it's on the Senate. So, interesting, right? Wow, can't believe it. Seriously, I'm kind of surprised it actually happened. I was kind of anticipating it wouldn't happen, realistically, because the votes have been scrapped so many times, and there's so many moderates on the fence. I'm really surprised. To be honest with you, I'm really surprised. I thought it was going to go in for a vote, and it was going to miss by like 2 or 3 votes. That was kind of my anticipation, but I'm surprised that it actually made it through. So, done. Anyway, I wanted to bring this back to you. I'll let you know what else is going on. I'm going to continue watching everything very closely. Democrats are super excited today. They're out in all these interviews. They're talking about everything. They're on Twitter. They're all over the place making comments and mentioning all kinds of things. So I'm going to watch everything closely and see what else comes out of this. But this is what we have as of right now. So I hope you're enjoying your day. Thank you so much for watching this. Subscribe down below. It's totally free. And go back and check out some of the other nearly 2,000 videos right here on the channel, as I'm here for you each and every day with all of the latest updates to help out in any way that I possibly can. Enjoy. Thanks so much for your support. Subscribe down below, and I'll catch you again later in the next